Good evening and welcome. It is unfortunate that we are here again in the same place talking about pretty much the same thing. But we so appreciate you being here. We so appreciate you being part of our community. My name is Patrice Horseman. I am the chair of the Board of Supervisors, and with me is every other member of the Coconino County Board of Supervisors. And before we get started on our presentation, I would like to go ahead and have them just introduce themselves in their seats. I'm going to hand the mic to them.
Good evening, Geronimo Vasquez, Vice Chair and Supervisor for District 2.
Good evening, Judy Gay, District Supervisor for District 4. And Nina Fowler, Coconino County Supervisor for District 5. Thank you.
And as you can see from the slide, we have with us today a number of folks. We're going to hear from several people representing multiple agencies and organizations, local, statewide, and national, who have made this incident their priority for our community. They are going to make a presentation, give you an update of where we are, and they will be available to answer your questions. We'll take those questions at the end after the presentation. Now, I'd like to make a comment. First, we want to, of course, acknowledge the hardship of the residents who have evacuated and have been affected by this incident. We also want to thank our first responders, the sheriff, the city police department, our fire crew, our Incident 3 team who got on the ground immediately, our Incident 2 team that has done such a great job. We want to welcome the Incident 1 team that is going to join us and help on this fight for our community. And I also want to thank members of the public that have really taken their time, their neighbor-to-neighbor approach to our community, and have helped out for those in need. And also, of course, to the Red Cross, the United Way, and other organizations that always come together here for our community in the time of crisis. Thank you. Some members of this board and many members of our community have been fortunate enough to have been born here in the shadows of the San Francisco Peaks. Others have felt that the peaks have called them here to be part of our community. Most of us who work and raise our children here, we choose to be here to make our homes at the base of the San Francisco Peaks. So it has been heartbreaking for all of us in this community to watch the fire as it's raged across the San Francisco Peaks. It is also heartbreaking for us to watch our residents, many of them for a second time, being evacuated from their homes due to this wildfire. It takes all of us to build a community. It is all of us that have built this community. We are resilient, and we will get through this together. And it is my honor and pleasure to introduce the Vice Chair of the Board of Supervisors, who also is a supervisor in the district where much of the wildfire and the evacuation has taken place. Geronimo Vasquez, Vice Chair of the Coconino County Board of Supervisors.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. First off, I want to send out my heartfelt pain for what's going on and how our community has been affected. Seeing that mountain burn really pains my heart, and it's been a really difficult 2 months. I think our community is emotionally exhausted, but now's the time when we need to stick together the most. This event right now, we're dealing with the fire, but the damages to some of those watersheds mean that this is going to be a long-term effort, long-term recovery effort, And so tonight we want to talk about, have our Coconino County and our partners talk about the pipeline and haywire fires. And I would like to recognize and thank all of our first responders who have done a great job dealing with this fire under tremendous circumstances with high winds and limited the amount of damage to structures in this last, in particular yesterday. And so thank you for all your hard work, everybody who's been a part of this, protecting the public safety. And we know that you may have seen some of the neighborhoods have been cleared for reentry, but others remain on go evacuation orders. We thank you for your patience during this time. I know it's difficult and you want to be home. You want to return to your homes and your livestock. But please be vigilant and be patient. Our teams are doing the best they can under difficult circumstances. And just be ready and vigilant just in case things change. If you're in set status, please be prepared to evacuate. And remember, the fire call center can answer any questions or help. The number is 928-679-8525. Our team tonight will also share info about resources for your physical and emotional health regarding the fires. I really encourage you all to take advantage of this support. Like I said, we're all kind of emotionally exhausted, and that support's there. I truly recommend that you take advantage of it. Our county, and specifically District 2, has been through a lot in this last year, and I will continue to do what I can to ensure that this community has the support it needs as we respond to these emergencies, prepare for potential flooding from monsoons, and the long-term recovery effort. So again, thank you for the opportunity to represent you. I would now like to turn this over to the Incident Management Team Commander. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Stephen Fillmore. I'm the Incident Commander trainee for California Interagency Management Team 15. It's a pleasure to see you all tonight. Unfortunate circumstances, but we're doing our best to alleviate that. So I'm here to represent, it's a team of about 58 people. We're a mixed bag of people working for federal land management agencies, local government, cooperators, some retired folks that still come out and like to help. So it's a real mixed bag of people and experience. And I'm also here to represent the hundreds of firefighters that are out there on the ground right now doing everything they possibly can to limit the effects of this fire and the impacts on you all, both on the ground and in the air. I know this has been a very challenging fire season. Well, not only a challenging fire, this particular set of fires, but also a fire season with the tunnel fire 6 weeks ago, and also fires you all have experienced. I know you have learned a lot about fire and probably been to meetings like this before, so I appreciate your patience and understanding with what we're trying to do. I so want to assure you on behalf of the team and the firefighters and everyone out here, we are absolutely trying to do everything we can to put this fire out. Yesterday was, sort of helpless in a way. These aren't the days that we like to fight fire. Winds 50 miles per hour, couldn't bring the aircraft in, the helicopters, the airplanes, and all the things that we like to do. It just wasn't much we could do. But today, it was a different day, and we were able, and I have to tell you, it was just a tale of two different fires. Well, it was a tale of a different day anyway. We were able to get people in. I don't know if you watched up on the peaks where the helicopters were halfway up. And each time you see a helicopter dropping water, there's probably a person underneath that digging some line, trying to put the fire out. So you can kind of mark their progress going up Fremont Peak in those places. I just wanted to let you know that we really are doing our best. And and I also want to say this is truly a combined effort. There's not only the cooperators that we're bringing in, but we're working closely in hand with Flagstaff Fire Department and Summit, also the state, Arizona Department of Forestry Fire Protection, everyone that can come and lend a hand. If you come to the Incident Command Post, which is over at the high school right now, you'll see trucks and fire engines and crews from all over, not only the state and the region, but also the country here to assist. So our team California Incident Management Team 15. We actually came in here on Sunday. We were on our way to Mesa to stage for a fire, but we were diverted here during the first day. And we've been here since then, so we've watched the fire evolve. We took command yesterday, and we're in charge today, and we'll be managing the fire through tomorrow. At that point, a Type 1 team will be coming in, led by Tony DeMaster down here and his team. They're coming out of Rocky Basin. Took them a little bit longer to get here, but they bring some additional capabilities that our Type 2 team doesn't have. So you guys will be in good hands with them, and they'll be taking the fire on Thursday is the plan. So they'll be talking then. So the fire is not over. We made some good progress in a lot of places. Certainly some containment you'll be seeing on that. But there's still work to be done out there, so we're doing, again, the best that we can everywhere that we possibly can, and we're getting a lot more resources in. There was a lot more fire trucks at the briefing this morning, so it was great to see. And I have our operations section chief. His name is Scott Grasmick. I'll be handing over to next. He's going to give a little briefing about what the fire is at right now. And I'll hand it over to Scott. Thank you all. I really appreciate it. I'm going to be around for questions. It's right here. Got it. Right.
Thank you, good evening, everybody. It's Scott Grasmick. I am the primary operations section chief for Team 15. Thank you guys for being here. I just wanted to reemphasize to Stephen, this is a cooperative effort. I'd like to thank the Coconino National Forest and our local cooperators and all the assistance to get us started. We'll start our update today in Division Alpha. In Division Alpha today, we were able to get 5 or 6 hotshot crews engaged. And these black lines here at the bottom of the division breaks, and it just separates the geographical areas that we use. But they're halfway up Fremont Peak right now, pushing in direct line, right on fire's edge, being supported with helicopters. And so, with out the wind that we've all experienced the last 2 days in the dynamic fire situations, we were really able to get a point established and start going to work. Coming up in the division, Mike, we were able to get fixed wing air tankers today and large helicopter support to reinforce that ridgeline system with the fire retardant, and it allowed us to get the boots on the ground engaged. We've been working on the top of Division Mike, around Alto Springs, and then kind of heading to the southwest. Towards the other hand, there's working towards them. Really successful day today. They're getting a lot of good work on the ground. It's looking really good today. Coming around into Division Tango, the north end of the fire, we've got crews engaged in getting some indirect panel lines plugged in, using the ropes and some features to cut that northern portion off. So we're looking good there. And then coming around into where the tunnel fire was, coming into Flagstaff here into town in Division Victor. Today's operations was just patrol and look for your hot spots involved with the structures, securing the fire edge. And that was looking really good. We'll start developing a plan here in the next couple of days to start working on the highway to get that open here for you guys in the next few days. And then come around into Division Zulu, the guys need to mop up, hot spot patrol, dig in the dirt and get all the neighbors out and everything. That was looking really good today. From the last update. Moving over to the Haywire fire. This one's been a little tricky. Yesterday's wind, it just pushed it really hard to the northeast. And then this afternoon, we got northeast winds, and now we're getting back to the southwest winds, so it's pushing it back up this way again. So currently aircraft are dropping retardant as we speak on the southern edge of the fire here, and then coming up to the northeast corner and starting to drop fire retardant here so we can get our boots on the ground to engage and start flanking this fire. That's the update for today. Thank you.
And next, we're going to hear from Coconino National Forest update. We have Nick Glidian, Interim District Ranger.
Thank you. Good evening. My name's Nick Glidden. I am the Interim District Ranger for the Flagstaff Ranger District. I want to extend my sincere sympathy to the situation that's going on to the community and the circumstances we find ourselves in. Tonight, I'm going to give you or touch on three different things. That is where we've been with fire restrictions, where we're going with fire restrictions, and then how we are starting the planning process for the emergency rehab. So where we've been with fire restrictions, the origin of this fire is located in an area that is closed to fires year-round. In addition to that, we were under Stage 2 fire restrictions when this fire started, which prohibits all fires on the Coconino National Forest. That's where we've been up until the fire. And then with the fire, we now have a fire closure area that roughly encompasses the Flagstaff district from Interstate 40 north, leaving out a few pieces on the northwest side. Where we're headed with fire restrictions, we've been doing a lot of work in the background to prepare for moving to a Stage 3 fire restriction. It takes a lot of coordination with cooperators and partners. We don't just move forward with this alone. We also use indices to predict when we should be moving into fire restrictions. So I've asked James Pettit, our fire staff, to join us tonight so he can walk through that with you after I'm done. So I want to touch on the post-fire flooding, and our efforts are underway to stand up our burned area emergency rehab team, and that team will assemble similar to the tunnel fire. We will be working with cooperators from the city of Flagstaff as well as the county, and plan on having them right with us in our hip pocket so that we can analyze the data together and come up with a plan together. We plan on starting that process as soon as we can. We do have to wait until obviously the fire has cooled off in places before we can really go in and evaluate the severity of the burn. And so we are waiting for that at this time. Excuse me, I want to go back to the forest closure. I forgot to mention that we did submit our request to the Washington office today, and we do anticipate getting a response in a day or so, we hope. So we should have an answer on the Stage 3 restrictions shortly. With that, I would like to turn it over to James Pettit, the fire staff officer on the Coconino, to explain how we go through evaluating the need for restrictions.
Good evening, everyone. James Pettit. I'm the fire staff officer for the Coconino National Forest. And you know, the question we get asked a lot here the last couple of days is about restrictions and closures. And so I'm going to walk you through what that process looks like. I know it's a big question out there in the community, and I can hope that I can shed some light on it. So I will say that these decisions are not made in a vacuum. There's no one person that pushes a button or makes a decision that says, here, we're going into closures. It's a collaborative process with a lot of partners. We've got folks from the city, you know, all of our municipal fire departments, our Coconino County Sheriff's Office, Coconino County Emergency Management, the state of Arizona, our neighboring forests around us. We've got representatives from both the Navajo and Hopi tribes. We have a call every Monday, and all of us get on that call and we talk about where we're at as far as restrictions and closures. This goes on from about the 1st of April through about monsoon season is generally when we quit having those. And so it's the first step in that process is the conversations that we have with all of our partners. So largely what we talk about, the first thing is the criteria. I know a lot of people have questions about, hey, what does this criteria mean? Essentially, it's a set of parameters that we can look at objectively. And I know right now we look out our front windows and we see the smoke and fire up on the hill, and we get a bit subjective, right? It causes some visceral reaction, and we all want to, hey, close the forest down. I get it, totally get it. But we've got to anchor our decisions off some sort of criteria, off some science. But it's only one piece of it. The other things that we look at are how close are we to monsoon season? Creating a closure is a huge endeavor. It takes a lot of people, a lot of folks, a lot of equipment to go through the forest and shut every one of these roads down. And so it takes a lot of time. It's not something you can do in a day or two. And so you get a few days out. Does it make sense? Those are the kind of decisions that we talk about. Largely what we talk about is weather. And so we'll have a representative like Brian. He'll get on the calls with us on Mondays and talk about, hey, what's the forecast? What's the outlook look like? And as he'll tell you, the further you get out, the harder it is to predict. It's not an exact science. It's very complex. And then we talk about resources. Do we have enough resources to catch fires? We look at is where are we at in the stages? So as all of you know, we went into stage 1 restrictions May 5th. And that basically eliminated all campfires out in the forest. May 26th, we went to stage 2, which eliminated any more campfires from developed campgrounds. And then that put some pressures on our industrial partners, our folks out there pulling logs out of the forest. We put some sideboards on when they can work. All of those things kind of go into what you're trying to figure out with that whole process. But the one piece is how are the stages, the stage 1 and stage 2, how are they being effective? And I will tell you, for the most part, 99% of the people that go out into the woods cause no trouble, cause no chaos. They follow the restrictions. They don't build campfires. But as we all see up here, it takes once in a wind event. The resource part. As a fire manager on this forest, the one thing that I anchor to is, given all the parameters, how dry are my fuels, what are the daytime temps getting to, what are the winds, can I go out and catch new starts? Do I have the adequate resources to go out and catch starts? And I can honestly say that, without a wind event, we've got all the resources we need to catch new starts here. When a wind event happens, it pulls a lot of the tools out of our toolbox for fire suppression, mainly the aircraft. And we've seen that up here. When those wind events happen, it pushes fire further out ahead of us. We just can't keep up. And especially when, we hit wind limitations with aviation. And so all those factors kind of go into all that decision making. But we try to get collaboration, like I talked about, with all of our partners. We'll build what we call a package, and we'll send that up to our regional office for them to review and concur on or not. And then we send that up to the Washington office and then eventually up to the Department of Agriculture. And so there's a lot of people involved with that whole thing. Like I said, there is no one making these decisions in a vacuum here. I will tell you where we're at currently is that we have sent a package, like Nick talked about, we have sent a package up to the regional office, and then ultimately we'll go on to the Washington office. And that's for stage 3 closures. We're about to that point where our indices meet the need. we obviously don't need any more fire out on the landscape here. But that's going to be our recommendation, and we'll see how it goes from here. And maybe Brian can enlighten us here real soon on what the weather looks like as we move forward. So that is a huge piece to this whole thing. And so other than that, what I will tell you is I'll be around after this is over, and if you have any more questions for some finer details, I'm willing to answer whatever you got. So thank you.
And before we proceed, I forgot to mention some other partners here that we really do need to thank, and that is President Nez in the Navajo Nation. He got a hold of us immediately and has been monitoring the situation and has been offering his help. Representative Tom O'Halloran, he was in the EOC within 24 hours to offer his help and assistance, and the same with our two senators, Kelly and Sinema, and their staff have been there, present, offering what assistance they can. And as we move forward, I'm sure they'll be hearing from us on some of the assistance that we're going to need, and we want to make sure to thank them. And Twin Arrows Casino have offered hotel rooms for those that, in fact, were evacuated, which was incredibly generous of them and very, very helpful for our evacuees. So we want to make sure to acknowledge them for all of their work as well. Now, next is National Weather Update. Brian Klimowski, and we want to make sure he gives us good news.
Thank you so much, Patrice, and thank you all for being here. I'm just going to spend a couple minutes very briefly going over the weather conditions that are anticipated over the next week or so, and as we roll into our monsoon season here. So, behind you is the weather we hate to see. That weather that was responsible essentially for the firestorm that we saw Sunday and Monday over the peaks, with the low relative humidity, the extremely strong winds, just causing the extreme fire behavior that we all saw. And we've all seen those photos, haven't we, of the fire whirls and the rolling waves of smoke, everything that contributes to very dangerous conditions. My message here for the next week or so is very different from what we saw there. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide. Indeed, what we have coming in the next couple days, tomorrow, even lighter winds than we saw today. It's going to start warming up, and we're going to especially feel that on Thursday. On Thursday, we're expecting highs in the low 90s there in Doney Park, in Timberline, and the winds are going to start coming up again. So what are the impacts of this? We're going to see more active fire behavior with the warmer temperatures and the lower relative humidities and the somewhat stronger winds on Thursday. Rolling into Friday and through the weekend is some encouraging news. We have a very strong trough off the west coast, which is going to start to help draw in a lot of moisture into the area. Now, the Flagstaff area will be on kind of the western edge of this moisture plume right now. That's what the forecasts look like, but scattered thunderstorms are forecast Friday through Sunday at this time. Now, a lot of beneficial ingredients come with this. That's higher relative humidity that will tend to suppress the fire behavior. And of course, hopefully some rain, but not too much rain. We all know the threat and the risk of post-burn flooding, and we'll be very sensitive to that and watching that very closely at the National Weather Service, excuse me, and in conjunction with the county, watching for any potential flash flood situations. So this weekend again, an increase in moisture, increase in thunderstorm activity, and really what we're seeing are the first indications of a monsoon circulation starting to get into place, which is very encouraging. This is actually very early. Normally, we don't see these conditions until much later in June, even early July sometimes, so we're hopeful. We're hopeful but cautious. Hopeful that we'll see the moisture, hopeful that we'll see it in small quantities, and being very conscious of the threat of flash flooding that any thunderstorm can bring. So keep your eye on the weather. Stay tuned to changing conditions and know and have an action plan if the storms get fired up over the drainages that have been hit. Now, I just want to bring a little attention to that photo there at the bottom. That was taken the morning of the first rain on the museum fire 3 years ago. And I'm hoping that we see something like that soon. Good rain makes conditions safe so we can truly attack this fire. So that's the message I have that I have for you tonight, and thank you.
Thank you. And now at the Sheriff's Office update, and we have Brett Axland here, the Chief Deputy, Coconino County Sheriff's Office.
Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Brett Axland. I'm the Chief Deputy for the Coconino County Sheriff's Office. Snowday morning around 10:30, a little bit after that, we received a call at our dispatch center about a fire that had started near Snowball Road in the Pipeline area. This is a real popular area for recreationalists and campers off of Fort Valley Road. We were given a description of a white pickup truck leaving the area of the fire in a fast manner. Deputies that were responding to the incident intercepted that pickup truck and made a traffic stop. Their initial investigation of that driver led them to contact the National Forest Service law enforcement officers who arrived and eventually, through their investigation, made an arrest. As the fire moved on, GO evacuation status was placed on the Schultz Pass Road for camping and recreation areas from Fort Valley to Schultz Pass and areas off Forest Service 418 and 516. Set status was enacted on Eldon Lookout Road and the 180 corridor up to Snowball Road. Later in the afternoon, as the fire progressed through Schultz Pass, Timberline, Fernwood, and Wapaki trails were put on set status and then GO. The fire appeared to be following the trajectory of the tunnel fire, as most of you saw. With the assistance of Coconino County Public Works, we were able to close all the roads leading into the fire danger zone in the communities, and deputies were able to provide escorts while the firefighters did their jobs protecting us. Again, deputies provided escorts for those needing emergency temporary access to their houses. And as nightfall came, we maintained security through the night and received no reports of criminal activity within the evacuated area. Monday, early morning, we received a report of the hay fire, resulting in our evacuation of the Alpine Ranchos and Moon Crater areas. Later, as the pipeline fire progressed north, we enacted additional evacuations in the area north along Highway 89 to Sacred Mountain Trading Post. The fire then entered the Timberline community near the west end of Crestview, causing Doney Park north of Silver Saddle Road to be placed on evacuation. This morning at 7 a.m., the evacuation GO status was lifted for the Doney Park area north of Silver Saddle Road and north of East Cullum Lane to Eldon Springs Road and placed into set pre-evacuation status. At noon, the evacuation GO status was lifted for Fernwood Estates, Hutchison Acres, Sweet Acres, and Johnson Ranch, which were also placed back into that set status. So at this point in time, the areas on a GO status of evacuation include Highway 89 north to Sacred Mountain Trading Post, Timberline north and west of Hutchison Acres, Wapaki Trails, Girls Ranch Road, Moon Crater, and west of Loop, Alpine Ranchos to the Navajo Reservation line. The current areas on set status of evacuation preparedness include North Highway 89 from Sacred Mountain to Sonagwa Trading Post, Doney Park, and neighborhoods off of Eldon Lookout Road. The total households in pre-evacuation status, which is that set status and the GO status, numbers are as follows. For the pipeline fire, 1,584 homes were placed on set status. 2,195 homes were on go status for evacuation, for a total of 3,779 homes. For the Haywire fire, 57 homes were placed on set, 281 on go, and 338 total. Security has been maintained in the evacuated communities on a 24-hour basis by the Coconino Sheriff's deputies with the assistance of the Flagstaff Police Department, Yavapai County Sheriff's Office, and the Navajo County Sheriff's Office. There have been no substantiated reports of property crime or suspicious activity in any of the evacuated areas during this time. Escort services for residents to their homes for life or animal safety related issues will be conducted from 9 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. If you wish to receive an escort, please proceed to the East Valley Baptist Church on North Highway 89. We will attempt to get you out to your homes as quickly as possible, but realize we have very limited staff due to all the other activity in the area. The Sheriff's Office and U.S. Forest Service will continue to evaluate the fire progression for determination of a reentry time. We will open up the evacuation areas as soon as it is safe to do so and continue to communicate any updates through our social media and website networks. I'm sure there will be mentioned a call center here in just a little bit. The 2 structures burned in the Timberline area are being assessed by our investigators at this time for Arizona state charges for arson, reckless burning, and felony criminal damage. These will be in addition to the Forest Service federal charges. We couldn't do what we do without the help of many of the folks in this crowd today and sitting behind me. Coconino County Public Works and Arizona Department of Transportation for assistance with traffic control and road closures, Flagstaff Police Department, Yavapai County SO, Navajo County SO for security patrols, Arizona Game and Fish, National Park Service, U.S. Forest Service, and the Arizona Department of Public Safety for assistance in our evacuation process, and Coconino County Emergency Management for assistance in getting those emergency notifications out so quickly. Also involved were the Coconino County Sheriff's Office Search and Rescue Team of volunteers, our Community Emergency Response Team volunteers, and our patrol volunteers. Being out there and spending quite a bit of time watching the operations going on, I can't tell you the efforts that the Forest Service and Summit Fire Department are putting forth to put this thing out. We understand the incredible difficulties that this evacuation causes on every one of you in this room. As quickly as we are able, we will get you back into your homes. This is a decision that we make with the National Forest Service and our firefighting professionals when the area is safe. That is our promise to you, that we will get you back as soon as possible. We were lucky to get a lot of folks back today. We hope that continues. We won't delay, especially after going through the tunnel fire less than 2 months ago. Thank you all for your patience.
And now, Kim Musselman, Director, Coconino County Health and Human Services, to talk about resources available for the evacuees.
Thank you, Chair Horstman. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to take a few minutes to cover a few things that hopefully most of you are aware of with respect to resources that are available. Our county website has all sorts of great information, and I'm going to kind of walk through that, and I think there's a pointer here. I just want to start first off by reminding everyone as to the call center. Call center hours are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., although this evening we will likely be extending those for a bit, concluding this meeting for any additional questions. Again, the call center number, it's up on the screen there, 679-8525, 928-679-8525. We I just wanted to take a few minutes to kind of cover a couple of things that we know are going to be ongoing for the next several weeks, likely, specifically related to your physical health and emotional health. We know that smoke, starting with the physical health, and we'll go ahead and, thank you, switch the slide on me already, which is great. The smoke is going to be a very big issue for quite some time, and it's going to likely increase with respect to how it's impacting here in town, as well as some of the other areas out towards the Navajo Nation. I want to point out something on our website. When you go to the Pipeline and Haywire Fire page on the Coconino County website, there are numerous icons, and I'm going to be showing you that in just a minute, but one of them is specifically for ADAQ and for smoke related information specific to the Pipeline and Haywire Fire. And when you go there, you will see ADAQ's updates talking about the smoke, and there's even a dashboard that you'll be able to look and see the worst times for smoke in your areas, and you'll actually be able to select specific areas for whether it's Donny Park, Flagstaff. I believe there's a Tuba City one as well on that chart. But I just wanted to point out in particular tonight, as the winds are going to become lighter, this is going to allow for smoke to drain into Fort Valley, down the Rio de Flag and into Flagstaff and into Donny Park. Moderate to at times high smoke impacts likely in Donny Park overnight and in Fort Valley and Flagstaff. The smoke does settle into these areas and is likely to do so this evening, and it is projected that it will lift around 9:30 a.m. Tomorrow, with the southwest winds, we expect it to be a little weaker, with smoke moving again more towards the north and northeast, with less daytime impacts in the Donny Park area. However, areas such as Tuba City and Cameron may see more light smoke during the day. I point that out just from a health perspective, that we want to make sure that you are all being mindful of that if you have certainly any medical conditions or breathing limitations, that you are being very mindful of the smoke. And even if you don't, minding what is, if it looks thick outside, making sure that you are keeping your windows closed and not breathing that smoke as much as possible. Turning on your air conditioning if you should be so fortunate to have that, and doing the other things to reduce your contact. And certainly if your symptoms worsen or you are having breathing difficulties, we urge you to contact your physician or go to an urgent care or the emergency room if it is severe. I wanted to point out aside from the smoke, there's lots of information. We will continue both from the county side and Health and Human Services to put out information about smoke and smoke-related hazards, but also want to take a quick moment to just point out the importance of also recognizing taking care of yourself and your emotional health. As Supervisor Vasquez mentioned, we've all been through a lot over the last few weeks and months, and this just adds another layer of trauma to the things that many of you have experienced and that many of us are experiencing here because of these fires. So I just want to point out that that it's okay to give yourself permission to become a little overwhelmed, a little frustrated, a little short in temper, and some of the other things that happen, and that you take advantage of the things that are around you for self-care. Tonight I want to point out that we have a representative here from Taros with us. Siren is here, and I'm going to ask her to stand up over here. She just waved in the purple. If you have any questions or just need someone to chat with, she will be available after the meeting if you'd like to approach her. In the meantime, and also going forward, want to point out the 24/7 crisis line that is available to anyone 24 hours a day. That number is 1-877-756-4090, and there are trained crisis intervention specialists available every day of the year. They're there to just talk with you to help you feel at ease. They're there to address thoughts of suicide, helping you get safety, all sorts of things. That is what they do 24/7, and we encourage anyone who may need that service to take advantage of it. So now just a couple other things I want to cover with respect to the current status of resources. So as those of you are here in this building, hopefully are aware, this is where the Red Cross shelter is set up. I know some of you are taking advantage of this shelter as a safe location to reside while you still remain evacuated. We continue to operate the animal shelters. I know many of you have or had animals that you evacuated, large animals and livestock, to our Fort Tuthill location, and also your small animals, dogs and cats and other small critters, to Coconino Humane Association off of Butler. That service is going to remain in place as long as folks are still evacuated. And then we will be notifying folks after the evacuation, all evacuations have been lifted, as to the timing of when all livestock and pets will need to be gathered back up at the conclusion of the evacuation phase. The last piece that I wanted to touch on specifically to, lots of folks ask about how can we help, and whether or not you're evacuated or just a concerned community member, because this is our town and our county, and we all want to help one another, and we are a resilient community. I want to stress that the United Way continues to have a crisis fund for anyone who would like to make cash donations. Encourage anyone that is interested in providing a cash donation to do so through this fund. And then as citizens of our community have needs and issues, we are able to access these funds to provide the needed services. And then another big piece is the volunteer side, that we want to be able to help one another and help our neighbors. Also, through the United Way, they coordinate all of our volunteer events for our fire and post-wildfire flooding events. Many of you have participated and volunteered with those in the past. And as we walk into the next phases of this, we're going to need lots and lots of volunteers. So we encourage you to go to the Volunteer Hub site and sign up. It asks you some of your skills, things that you would like to do or are willing to do. And then as events are coordinated, you will be sent emails and contacted. So the last piece I want to cover is just a quick note. I got a phone call before coming over here this afternoon. For those of you who are still evacuated and recently returned to set, your mail is at the post office, and you are able to go by the 4th Street Post Office with your ID to pick up your mail. There are also packages that are being held by FedEx, and there's a number there on the screen as well to contact. They are over at the airport. They have your packages. Some of them have perishables in it, so if you are expecting a package, I urge you to contact FedEx. There's also a phone number. And all of this information is also available on our website. To get to our website to access all of the services, and next slide please, there's a QR code that's up here on the screen. There are posters that are posted around the entrance in the back of the room here. There are plenty of county staff to direct you to those, and they can show you how you can use that QR code to download directly to the county website page where all of these services are listed and available. Urge you to do so. As you need assistance, again, we will have folks to be able to help do that. So with that, that concludes the pieces that I wanted to share with you. Again, want to thank everyone for your patience and encourage you, again, if you have questions or concerns, to reach out through the call center. Again, those typical hours are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you leave a message after hours, the call center staff will return your call and will get back to you. And again, I'll just leave you with that phone number, 928-679-8525. Thank you. Thanks, Carol.
Well, I know the number one question, of course, is when do we get to return home? And I know that's a very difficult question to answer. Second biggest question is, what has this done with regards to the Schultz Fire flood mitigation efforts, and how about post-wildfire flooding? So with that, Christopher Tressler, Coconino County Public Works, is going to address some of this. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Christopher Tressler. I serve as the County Public Works Director, and tonight I'm representing the Flood Control District. Some of you might be more familiar with Lucinda Andriani. While she couldn't be here tonight, she's still helping manage this incident. And I'd like to share that our hearts go out to all those that have been affected by this disastrous wildfire. Our team is working long hours on emergency response right now, assisting the Sheriff's Office and community members as we can. But we're also strategizing our flood response efforts for the upcoming monsoon season. We're in the early stages of that process, and it's still evolving as the fire changes and grows and behaves as it does. So with that, I'd like to thank you in advance for your patience, resilience, and strength, and importantly, our community spirit, that we're going to be in this together and we'll work through this disaster. Here's some quick facts that we know related to the watershed and how this fire has affected the Schultz burn scar and other portions of the watersheds upstream of where we live. The tunnel fire and the pipeline fire has burned through all the areas previously burned by the 2010 Schultz fire, as well as significant portions of Government Tank watershed and the Schultz Creek watershed on the western flanks of the peaks. As such, there is high likelihood of post-wildfire flash flooding this monsoon season. The pipeline fire has not burned any portion of the Museum Fire area or the Spruce Avenue Wash area. So those flood mitigation efforts are continuing. We don't expect to see any decrease in flood risk there. That's still a fire compromised watershed, but it hasn't increased with this recent fire. Our engineering consultants will be working, conducting hydrologic analysis as information and data becomes available. As Nick shared, as soon as possible, the U.S. Forest Service BEAR team, it's a burned area emergency response or rehabilitation team, will begin surveying the fire impacted areas. We use that data to help us understand how these watersheds are going to react to rainfall events. We don't have that data yet, but as soon as we get it, we'll throw it into our computer models and we'll begin to meet most likely virtually with residents to share the information and to help everyone understand how they might be impacted by post-wildfire flooding. We're mobilizing resources to make sandbags and then make them available to the community. It's been a tough year for resources as COVID and other, this is considered the Great Resignation. Many people have retired and we're down on numbers. So it's going to take the community to come together. And as Kim mentioned, we need volunteers to help us make sandbags, and people that are elderly and disabled are going to need assistance in these fire impacted areas. So please sign up with United Way if you're able. But again, we're in the very early stages of this process, so please bear with us. And please, please, please purchase flood insurance. Talk to your insurance provider or call the National Flood Insurance Program. That's really the only relief for private residents. And then also, on an end with that, please sign up for emergency notifications. There's details in the foyer. You can also scan that QRL code to get to the county website, and there's details there. It's the most effective way for the county to communicate. And then you can also, if you're evacuated, you can call that number that was shared and give us your name and your phone number. The county does not collect information about people, and so we have a mailing address, but if we have your phone number and if we have an email address, we're able to communicate with you more effectively. So thank you.
And with that, I think we are now on audience questions. And Trey Williams, are you going to come up here? And I know we have been collecting questions from the chat. So thank you for those that did put questions on that chat. And I believe you've been collecting some written questions.
Yes, thank you, Chair Horstman. Good evening, everyone. My name is Trey Williams. I'm the Public Affairs Director for Coconino County. I'm going to start with questions from the audience here. So I will read out the question, and then someone from our panel will come up to answer it. We're going to start with questions from the audience here at the community meeting, and then we will move to questions from the live chat. The first question is, wind is a large factor in our area. How does wind get considered for closure decisions?
I believe that's for the Forest Service.
Yeah, well, it kind of depends on what they mean by blue, I guess.
Okay.
You want to talk about it from the criteria?
Yeah, I'll handle this one. So yeah, how does wind get factored into our closure decisions? I'll be perfectly honest with you, it's very difficult to factor in because the nature, it shows up and goes away. And it's very, like I talked about earlier, it's very cumbersome to set up closures or restrictions for a one-day event or a two-day event or a three-day event. And the nature of how hard they are to predict, to get that whole, big ball rolling to get to that three-day window there. And so we do factor it in. Part of the way it gets factored in is how fast it dries the fuels. So we're always monitoring that portion of it. So when we talk about fuels, we talk about fine dead fuels, and then we'll talk about what we call 10-hour fuels, which would be like small twigs, and then 100-hour fuels, which would be like your limbs on your trees, and then 1,000-hour fuels would be your logs, and the rates at which that wind will help to dry some of that stuff out. So it does get factored in, but it's very difficult to predict.
Thank you. The next question is, how about a permanent ban on campfires, etc.? When are you going to place a permanent ban on campfires?
So yeah, this is another one that comes up yearly. I would just like to reiterate that we're land managers. We're stewards of the land. It's public land, and the public means all of us. And so we don't take it lightly closing public lands and activities off to the general public. It's your lands. And so we want people to have the opportunity to recreate and go out and build campfires when it's safe to do so. That's part of going camping. And so we try to leave those opportunities open as much as possible. But we also have to take in, the risk and public safety portion of this, which is why we go through these restrictions and closures process. But we get these opinions all the time. And in one hand, you'll have a handful of folks that would like to have it closed off permanently. And on the other hand, you have people that don't want it closed off. And so our job is to balance that. And like I said, anchor to the facts, the sideboards, the science made by scientists, and go from there.
Thank you, James. I wouldn't go far because this next question is for the Forest Service as well. The Forest Service restrictions have not worked in the past. Our properties have been irreparably damaged. Does the Forest Service bear any responsibility for this, as they are the one responsible agency that has the power to prevent this? I don't know if you want to add on from your previous answer.
I can. So wildfires are wildfires. There's risk every time something might happen. And this is a story that gets played out all over the West. We totally get and empathize with those folks that have been impacted out there, starting with the tunnel and now with the pipeline. And most of those folks are the same folks. It's a horrible thing to go through. You wouldn't want to do that once, much less twice in 1 year, and I totally get that. All we can do is try to stop each one of these starts that we have. They're going to happen in the Southwest, whether they happen with man-made starts or lightning. That's what's coming up around the bend here. And so it's our job to try and do that, and we'll continue to do so.
Thank you, James. This question is for Chief Deputy Axland. Can I take my renters in with me when I'm escorted back to my house?
The Sheriff's Office has the authority to make decisions based upon reentry and evacuations. The escort